On the 24th of May 2014, in order to celebrate their 1-year anniversary on YouTube, Who Addicts Reviews uploaded their very first fan film, Whovians No More. Then, on the 5th of September 2014, they followed that by uploading their second fan film, Whovians Reborn. And now, on the 24th of May 2015, here is the epic and emotional conclusion to the Who Addicts Reviews Whovians fan film trilogy. Hello YouTube, Film Buff 06 here, with a review of the third and final installment of the Who Addicts Reviews Whovians fan film trilogy, Whovians Unite, which was recently uploaded onto the Who Addicts Reviews YouTube channel on the exact same date as my recent 23rd birthday, on Sunday the 24th of May 2015, which of course was last Sunday, to celebrate their second anniversary on YouTube, and also to mark 1 year since the first film, Whovians No More, was released. It was once again co-written and co-directed by co-stars James Wilson and Matthew Rowney, and it also features cameos from Tom Dix out of Epic Who, reprising his role as the Doctor from the Doctor Who fan audio adventures, and Amber Wilkinson as the Doctor's most loyal companion, namely herself. Now, the plot of Whovians Unite, which was preceded early this year by not one, but 2 standalone prequels titled Alone and Trust, which were individually written by James and Matthew respectively, takes place straight after the events at the end of Whovians Reborn, when after a fateful encounter with their past selves in 2013, and with their friendship being over for good, James Wilson and Matthew Rowney found themselves seemingly separated from each other forever by another time storm that dropped them in 2 different points in time, with James ending up in a parallel universe with a constant 5-second time loop, almost similar in a way to Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, or even The Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise, with a mysterious and almost tenantified imaginary version of Matthew, simply named Matt, and Matthew ending up in another parallel universe with an alternate version of James named Colonel Wilson, who is a vicious dictator. Yeah, brilliant. So now, with the help of the Doctor and his loyal companion, Amber Wilkinson, it's up to James and Matthew to discover some shocking and emotional truths before they can work out what the time storm is and how to defeat it, repair their friendship, and get back home. Now I'm going to do something a little bit different with this review compared with the ones I did of the previous two films, Whovians No More and Whovians Reborn, and here's how it's going to pan out. Before I tell you guys what I thought of Whovians Unite itself, I'm first going to tell you guys what I thought of the two prequels that preceded the film, Alone and Trust. James's prequel, Alone, I thought, was amazing. The humour and the acting were brilliant. It was funny to see James thinking he was going completely crazy with these voices in his head, especially given that he was now stuck in a 5-second time loop where it was literally the same 5 seconds over and over and over and over again. I have to confess, I had never actually tuned in to the Doctor Who fan audio adventures for some absurdly strange reason. I don't know why, but nonetheless, I thought Tom Dix sounded fantastic as the Doctor. Matthew's character, I thought, was quite interesting, very mysterious, and reminded me very much of the 10th Doctor. He had the cockiness, he had the vanity, and he especially had the sort of gelled up hair to go with the, the look and, really the mystique of the character. Plus, Alone set things up superbly for James's side of the story to Whovians Unite. Matthew's prequel, Trust, on the other hand, oh my god, wow. It was dark, it was intense, it was shocking, it was unpredictable, it was just, really, really fantastic. The acting from all three involved, Matthew, James and Amber, was beyond brilliant. James especially completely stole the show as Colonel Wilson, and for my money deserves an Oscar for this performance. I mean, if this character was handled really, really badly, he would have come across as a really generic dick. Similar to, for one example, General Cobb in The Doctor's Daughter. But luckily, that wasn't the case here. Not only did Colonel Wilson seem to have the ruthlessness of Grand Moff Tarkin from Star Wars, or even Hans Landa, the Christoph Waltz character from Inglourious Bastards, but he also reminded me of John Sims' Master, Moriarty from Sherlock, and even Heath Ledger's Joker from The Dark Knight, in terms of his unpredictability. You just genuinely did not know what this guy was going to do next. And also in terms of how insane he was. And the way he tricked Matthew to convince Amber that everything was going to be alright, you know, to get her hopes up, so to speak, to then instantly arrange to have her seemingly killed in front of Matthew towards the end was shocking on an emotional level. And like Alone, Trust did a brilliant job of setting things up for Matthew's side of the story to Whovians Unite. Well, speaking of Whovians Unite, I've been looking forward to seeing how this film was going to turn out, not just from the moment the title was announced, but also especially from the beginning, when these guys announced that Whovians No More was not going to be just a one-off film, but instead the first in a trilogy of fan films. So, 146 minutes in total for all three films put together, being Whovians No More, Whovians Reborn, and Whovians Unite. Just over 12 months in the making. What are my thoughts on the final product? Wow. I have to say, this was definitely worth the wait. Also, James and Matthew, I have to once again congratulate you two guys for all your fantastic hard work and all the incredible effort you put into not only making this film as good as you can possibly make it within the space of the last couple of months, but also into making this super awesome trilogy within the space of just over an entire year. I really loved that the story of this film was much darker and also much more emotional, but that at the same time, like the previous two films, it also retained elements of humour, like this whimsical scene where James and Matt end up getting drunk and do this ridiculous but hilarious dance, which is one of the highlights of the film, actually. Jacob Martin's editing, as always, was superb. The music that was used in this film was fantastic. The cinematography, especially for the two differing parallel universes, I thought was fantastic. The acting from James and Matthew was just phenomenal. Some of the best acting acting that these guys had ever done, period. Had and have ever done, period. Tom's cameo as the DWF-AA doctor, Tom's, physical cameo as the DWF-AA doctor was fantastic. Now, if there was one teensy tiny little nitpick that I had with this film, it was that I thought Amber's cameo was a little bit underutilized. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was cool to see her in the movie, but I personally wish she could have had a bit more of a role to play in the story, if I were to be perfectly honest. But otherwise luckily it didn't take away from my overall enjoyment of the film. The film runs for almost the exact same length as The Day of the Doctor, at 73 minutes long, and yet I never felt like it was boring me or that it dragged in the slightest. I was on the edge of my seat the whole way through because so much awesome stuff happens in this film to warrant your attention. The script was just cleverly written and was not only littered with brilliant callbacks and references to the previous two films, like mentions of both Garfield the movie and Lesbian Vampire Killers, terrible films, but also littered with some fantastic Doctor Who references, like the Fez, the Fourth Doctor's iconic scarf, the 11th Doctor's iconic drunken giraffe dance, the 12th Doctor's catchphrase from Time Heist of "Shut up, shut up, shut-a-dee-dee-dee-dee, up, 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 shut-a-dee, up, up, up." A sly reference to the phrase, "You redecorated. I don't like it." A little reference to John Sims' first words as the Master from Utopia when Matt says, "So you must think this is the typical villain cliche where I tell you all my plans and you try to figure out a way to stop me. I don't think." The quote, "You know who I am," being, of course, a reference to Missy from Missy saying it in Dark Water, posters of The Day of the Doctor and Series A, as well as a Bane poster from The Dark Knight Rises in James's room. Colonel Wilson's personality in the end being similar to Jackson Lake from The Next Doctor, and the Time Storm attempting to rewrite both James and Matthew's histories, being similar to how the Great Intelligence attempted to rewrite the Doctor's history in the name of the Doctor. And the twist towards the end when, spoiler alert, Colonel Wilson turned out to be a future version of James in the year 2023 was really shocking, and it was really sad to find out that he had suffered a psychotic breakdown after he and Matthew ended the channel and went their separate ways, was admitted to an asylum with Matthew as a result of losing his grip on reality, and was told by psychiatrists to suppress all of his memories of Doctor Who and instead live out this fantasy life of being a vicious dictator. It made his character quite surprisingly more complex and damaged than I initially thought, and it almost made you sympathise with him in a way. But the biggest twist was when, another spoiler alert, Matt turned out to be a human personification of the time storm all along. That couldn't have been any more of a shock. It was almost like a CPR shock to the system, like that. It was pretty much similar to Hans turning out to be the bad guy towards the end of Disney's Frozen. It was that ingenious. Also, the post-credit scene where Joe Oliver, out of Team Drew and Hermits United, was ranting about his disappointment with the film was just hilarious. I mean, overall, Whovians Unite more than lived up to the hype surrounding it. It is the Return of the King, or Last Crusade, or Dark Knight Rises, or Toy Story 3 of the trilogy. It rounded off the Whovians trilogy perfectly. The trilogy, I have to say, has become the first legendary fan film trilogy of all time. Yes, I swear I'm not making this up. It's ranked right up there with the likes of the Dark Knight trilogy, the original Star Wars trilogy, the Indiana Jones trilogy, the Cornetto trilogy, the Toy Story trilogy, and heck, even the freaking Lord of the Rings trilogy. I would highly recommend the entire trilogy to anyone who is not a fan of Doctor Who and or have not subscribed to these guys for some absurd reason. And I feel very, very proud to give not just Whovians Unite, but the entire trilogy as a whole the highest rating I could possibly give it, which of course is an awesome-tacular 10 out of 10. Wow. Now, feel free to leave a comment in the section below and let me know your thoughts on Whovians Unite And also let me know your thoughts on the entire Whovians fan film trilogy as a whole, and also which one of the three is your favourite. For me, it is Whovians Unite. It has to be Whovians Unite. Anyways, feel free to subscribe to my channel as always. And until my next video, which is going to be a review, which is finally going to be a review of the 1966 Best Picture Oscar winner, A Man for All Seasons. Do take care, everyone, and I am proud to be a Who Addict.